Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Wednesday, May 20th, 2020 by Gaia Blooming. I am Mimi and our energy mantra for today is I listen, I remember, I am mindful. And there you have in a nutshell what we really want to remember during Sun in Gemini, because today at 6:49 a.m. Pacific time we have the Sun moving into Gemini. So before we move into Gemini, I have a little story to tell you. So today, last day of Taurus, if you remember my message yesterday, I was like, be very aware of what you value. So I sit down to do some long overdue work, and I hear this like, wah, wah, wah noise. I'm like, what is this noise? This is loud. This is probably a fire alarm. Is this a fire alarm? I go and open the door, smell smoke, and it is indeed the fire alarm. So, snap into action. Grab the cats, get Joe, and we get out. And, as I'm sitting in the car, watching the fire, sitting in the car with cats, with the AC on, because it's like 90 degrees outside, and that is not good car weather for cats. The fire trucks are racing up, and I'm like, oh, how interesting. I said today to be very aware of that which is valuable to you. And here, I had my very own chance to really see, when push came to shove, what was important. Joe and the cats, the keys made it out. My computer did, my purse did. Joe had a few extra things. He grabbed green juice. Love that. But really, as I was sitting there, I was like, the most important things, the things that are most valuable to me are absolutely the cats and Joe. And while there are things in here that, I love my crystals. They can't necessarily be replaced. And yet, push comes to shove. That was what was important. That was what was valuable. And I hope we all don't have to have moments like that to remember. It was a reminiscent to living on the mountain because we were ready for that. It felt like almost all the time. But here we actually had to jump into action and take our stuff out. It was a dumpster fire, by the way. Somebody put something down the trash chute that caught on fire, and they got it out, and all is well. So, speaking of all that. But it's a really good thing. We build our astro on top of foundations. The foundation that we built this month of Taurus was really looking into that which has worth, that which has value. And so we want to remember that when we get overstimulated from this Gemini energy. And Gemini energy is coming in extra stimulating. Right now, before we even have the Sun come in, we have Mercury, which is as Mercury rules Gemini, it is very stimulating having Mercury here. We have Venus retrograde in Gemini. We have Vesta here. And we have the North Node. And the North Node in Gemini is definitely stimulating that Gemini energy. By the end of the week, we are adding the Sun and the Moon, as we'll have a new Moon in Gemini. So, really strong Gemini vibrations. Now, Gemini, it really rules mental energy, our thinking, our communication, our listening. But one word that I've never really talked about with Gemini energy too much is remembering. And that definitely connects in with that mental energy. And so during this time of Gemini, we are going to be hit from all of these angles with this mental energy. And yet we can choose to remember that which is important. It doesn't mean that we don't stay open and we don't stay curious, because I think that's a major lesson in this time with the North Node in Gemini, to be open to that energy of not knowing, to be open to other opinions, to be open to other people's experiences. There are people who are so ensconced in their camp right now, whatever that is, in regards to what's going on in the world, that they're really not open to seeing other people's perspective. And I'm not saying that anybody else's perspective is right or is wrong, but maybe there's a reason. And so this is part of that energy, to listen, to remember what's important for you, and to be mindful and open. I just realized I pulled cards and I didn't didn't even actually look at them. Okay. I was like, oh, wait, here are these. Let's see. uh-huh. These two energies. Very interesting with the Gemini. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is two-minded, which I kind of do want to go into, which is into mischief. And the silence card. To listen is a major part of the Gemini. Gemini energy doesn't necessarily always get the benefit of the doubt around listening energy, but I will tell you, people with strong Gemini energy, they are picking up all of the signals. And so this, whether you have Gemini or not, is an opportunity to be like, am I tuning into these signals? Am I even realizing that I'm absorbing these energy? That's part of the mindfulness, to be aware of what you are actually absorbing in the airwaves. Let's talk about the other thing about Gemini. I did look at this card. I did pull a card from the Starseed Oracle for the Sun in Gemini. And this card talks about being multifaceted, which we'll get into. Excuse me, a little smoke inhalation. And a mischievous cat in the other room. She is a Gemini rising, just like me, and it shows. Please don't eat that, Gemini rising Taurus. Okay, well, I think she's eating Joe's necklace. Anyway, multifaceted. Gemini is the sign of the twins. And a lot of times there's talk of like the good twin and the bad twin with Gemini. What it is for everybody is we all have the face that we show the world. And then we all have this other face that may be more private or more tender or hidden for whatever reason. Fearful, shy, whatever. There's so many different reasons. And so during this time of Gemini, it's really being aware of that multifaceted self and realizing that it's there. And again, just like I've been talking about with Venus retrograde in Gemini, the mirrors that are around that come up to show us angles of our multifaceted selves. So being very aware of that energy through Gemini will be very important. Another thing about Gemini is it's squirrel. It is so hard for me to be like, I'm going to focus on this camera energy, because again, there's always so much stimulus coming in at me, including from spirit, hey, here's a message, here's a message, here's a message, here's a message. We all may go a little bit more into squirrel mode during Gemini. It's fine. It happens. Be aware of that. Bring that focus, especially when it's extra needed. But getting grounded does help somewhat with the squirrel energy. Now, that is also going to increase this week as we build to this new moon in Gemini. So, we're also building to this Venus-Mercury conjunction with that new moon energy. So, there's a lot of stimulation coming in between the sun and the moon are going to be conjunct, and Mercury and Venus are conjunct. And like I say with planets, they all enhance each other. So we're building to that. So if your sleep somewhat is going down the hill and the sparks flying from your thoughts are going up the hill, just be very aware of that energy. The grounding helps. The remembering, hey, what's important? What do I value? Where can I put this energy towards my creativity? Those lessons from Taurus will help support slowing down the squirrels. Slowing down it's monkeys and squirrels. It's a zoo in here. So, that being said, let's look at some of these other energies for Gemini. Actually, I should say one more thing. As we are entering Gemini, we really are getting very close to eclipse season. We're just over 2.5 weeks, probably right about 3 weeks, just under our first eclipse. And it will be in Gemini season. It will be eclipse with the full moon. The eclipse will be in the sign of Sagittarius. Whew, as a Gemini Sagittarius, I am over here sweating. Anyway, what is important? Foundation in that. Just be aware. It's like 2020. Really? Can you, what else is going to happen? Bring out the murder hornets, that kind of thing. Well, these eclipses, as if you've been watching me a long time, they do amplify the energy. So do be aware that we're in a space where these energies are amplifying. The lessons are amplifying. I would say that anybody who's like, this is what it is, and I know, may get slapped with some humble pie. And I don't think that the universe's humble pie that it's doling out right now is humble pie that any of us want. So really remembering the lessons of Gemini for your inner Sagittarius know-it-all will definitely help and support in these days. So really do try to learn these open-minded, staying curious lessons of Gemini. Okay, so the rest of the astro for the day. Moon in Taurus, dark of the moon. Whew, reminding us to remember, reminding us to stay in the place of that which we value. How important that really is for us. So Moon in Taurus is meeting with Mars and Uranus. Uranus, sudden shock. Sudden shock or change. My adrenals literally hurt in the car just from like the pure emotion of it. I think I cried for like a minute. It was really fast because it was just like have to release, just because the energy was like so stressful. And then we're sitting there and watching them turn, you know, what is it? Water out the dumpster fire. It's just too, it's all so funny. Be aware of sudden emotions coming in to be processed, released. Be aware of any shock coming in. Grounding is a major shock absorber. I don't have any of the oils that I necessarily would put right on my adrenals, but I do like to use oils. I do like Valor oil sometimes on my back and adrenals. Nutmeg is great for the adrenals, but just be aware of that. Hopefully none of you guys have to go with that, but anytime Uranus comes into play, there can be sudden things. And Gemini, the nature of Gemini is fast change. So going hand in hand with that, we may have that. Again, there may be just like mental, emotional crossroads coming up as the Moon and Uranus cross. But the nice thing is with the Moon and Uranus, the Moon moves so fast, 2.5 hours, and it's like past that degree. So it's just a small chunk of time that we're really going to be working on that. Sorry for the snoring in the background. Think of it as happy purring. Joe is sleeping, and I couldn't wake him up after all of this because he needed to rest. Moon and Mars also connecting. Sorry, jumping around. Yay, Gemini. Moon and Mars. Oh, lazy cat. I could turn this around and show you my lazy cat on the edge of the bed. Mahalo, also worn out from all of this. Mars in Pisces. Moon in Taurus. Move according to that which is important. The Gemini energy may make you think like, I have to do things. Gemini has a tendency to be in a constant state of like Tarzan, swinging from one thing to another. But just because that energy may light up that instinct in you does not mean you have to honor that. Honor your personal flow. Mars will be in Pisces all through this Gemini season, and I think that'll be good for us because we need to find that balance of where we're called to act and where we're called to like settle. Finally, Venus. Sorry, this is a long scope, but there's been a lot to tell. Again, Gemini. Venus square Neptune. We've reached this. Stuff around relationships coming up. And again, it's not so much about what's out there. This Venus retrograde is like, what is this a mirror for? What is it showing me? What kind of depths is this trying to take me to at this time? Because Venus in Gemini, I swear, is this Anana process, which is like taking us deep into energies that we need to look at. And so this Neptune thing, it may be karmic, it may be old friendships, relationships, family. It can be a relationship with God, Spirit, Universe. I have the Beyond Illusion card, and I think that this goes really well hand in hand with this. Getting beyond illusion that it really has to do with them, the lessons are always ours. You know, that's not to say excuse bad behavior because, oh, it's a mirror for me. It's not about that. But what is your lesson in that? Getting to that place is taking back your power and getting beyond the illusion. So do be aware of that, but it can be challenging, and you may feel a little lost in the fog, but the mirror is going to clear. So just be aware of that. And if you have those feelings about the mirror needing to be clear, like listen to your intuition. What is it saying in this? Because it has the best information for you. I also have the Fool card, starting a new journey. So here in Gemini, we're digging in and starting a new journey. And the Fool takes that open-minded approach of like, well, I really don't know, but I'm willing to find out. So be in that space. Sorry, I know this is long, but lots to be said. Gemini energy. So, from the Starseed Oracle, the courageous peony, which I think is very sweet. Multifaceted, unique nature, let yourself be seen. Okay. Flowers don't open and close according to who walks by. They embrace all of what they are and show it to the world around them. The peony doesn't try to compete with the cherry blossom, and the cherry blossom doesn't try to compete with the tulip. They own what they are and trust the timing of their true nature. You're being called to do the same. It's time to open yourself up and be seen. It may be time to open yourself up and be heard. You know, Gemini is about this communication. What do you need to say? Time to share your incredible, multifaceted, true nature with the world around you, to uncover and reveal your soul's greatest gifts without wavering, to own your uniqueness without apology. There's a flower on the planet that holds the same qualities that your soul is readying itself to express. Let it inform you. You may have been taught that it's safer to keep your light hidden and your voice small, to hide behind the bushes instead of growing tall. The courageous peony is here to remind you that it's safe to embody all of who you truly are. It's safe to share your voice and let yourself be seen. I have to say, in this day and age, it doesn't necessarily always feel safe to share your voice or, you know, to say what you think. I think there's a lot of criticism online. And again, I think we have to remember that person who has a differing opinion. I have a sneeze coming, sorry. Come on. Either pass by or move along. Okay. And get passed by. Anyway, that person who has something to say, maybe they have a good reason. It still may not ring true for you, but there may be some understanding, some reason for it, you know? And I just think we have to remember, we all have these different paths and different understandings. It's so important to remember. So, anyway, the courageous peony is here to remind you it's safe to embody all of who you truly are. It's safe to share your voice and let yourself be seen. At first, it may feel uncomfortable and you may be afraid of what others think, but with each passing day, it does become easier. Little by little, you realize that it draws in those who are meant for you and experiences you've been longing to arrive at your feet. Your starseed soul inquiry is, how are you being called to allow yourself to be more visible and seen in the world? So, that was a long one, but lots to unpack. So, you can book a reading with me. I've had some inquiries about eclipse readings. I'm going to do them. I just haven't figured out pricing and all that. It's always one of my hardest things. Taurus. I have Chiron in Taurus. It's difficult. Anyway, email me, mimiclark@gmail.com. I promise I'm getting back to you guys. Today was my day sitting at the computer and getting everything done, and then that didn't happen. So, bear with me because I'm in this universal flow just along with you guys. Besides that, the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power, and stay curious. Namaste.